Hello, 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 people. I am doing our next video to keep us rocking and rolling. I hope that you have taken the time to watch the previous two videos, right? So there was an introduction video that would have been sent a while back. And then connected to the set of videos that you're watching right now, there was one that explains each of the spiritual gifts. So hopefully you watch those first. That's important. If not, hit pause, come back to me. Of course, I'll still be here. Because you're going to need to know those two pieces of information and before you watch this video, because each video kind of builds on top of each other. Okay. All right, so this is going to be about 20 minutes or so. I just kind of wanted to do a follow-up or a piggyback after the first video that talks. The first video was really more about explaining each of the gifts and what they are, but this video is really more about showing you how they operate, right? The essential aspects of them, which again is just one more piece of puzzle to help bring the clarity that you need. Okay, so one of the things that I think is important for you to know and understand is that purpose unfolds, okay? So while there's going to be a level of clarity that you get doing this course and jumping on the calls and, having conversation even with other people possibly, there's going to be much of clarity that comes in that process. But I also want you to understand that as you examine your experiences, right, both your past experience and those things that happen in the future, purpose will become clearer and clearer and clearer, okay? So as a part of today, I'm going to be talking about maybe 4 or 5 things that I think are important as you're learning to operate in your gift. But then I also, as a part of the homework, when we get towards the end, we'll talk about what it looks like to kind of examine that past and pull out some key aspects, okay? Because the truth is, every experience that we have is designed to teach us something, right? We just have to be paying attention enough and slow down enough to be able to figure out what the lesson is. All right, so here are a couple things that I want you to kind of make note of or pencil in your brain. So one, when we talk about gifts, right, when we talk about what your spiritual gift is, I want you to understand that there are actually 3 categories of spiritual gifts, okay? Of course, we're only focusing on one, but I think it's important that you know that there is more than one type of spiritual gift, simply because you may go other places and they may be talking about your gift, and it could be different than what I'm sharing. And so I want you to understand that, hey, I'm talking about this classification of gifts. They may be talking about something else, okay? So the 3 categories of gifts are: 1, ministry gifts, right? So ministry gifts, probably pretty self-explanatory, are gifts that are used to build and train leaders within the kingdom of God, okay? So ministry gifts are specifically connected to the work that you do within the ministry. Right now, that doesn't mean that you aren't doing work or you aren't doing ministry in the business that you're a part of, but that's different, right? We're talking about ministry gifts are connected to doing like church or religious types of activity, okay? Obviously, we're not focused on that. The second type of gift are manifestation gifts, right? So manifestation gifts are gifts that flow through you, but they're not actually yours, okay? So for example, manifestation gifts, one example of that might be someone who has the gift of healing, right? Someone who has the gift of prophecy, right? So that person has a gift to be able to heal or to share a word. However, it is not theirs to own, right? It's just something that flows through them, which is also not what we're focused on when we're talking about spiritual gifts in the context of purpose and the context of this course, okay? The last category is motivational gifts, and that's where we're focused on, right? So motivational gifts are the ones that really teach you most about who you are, right? Because these are the gifts that you have been given, right? And they're designed to serve others and serve God, okay? So I want you to be aware that we're only focused on motivational gifts, right? That's number 1. The second thing that is really important that I think a lot of times people miss is that when you're operating in your gift, right, in order to really maximize the gift that God has given you, you have to operate out of love, okay? So what that means is, so let's just say you have the gift of leadership, okay? So you could be out here, being a leader in a lot of different capacities in your home, with your job, in your community, whatever that may look like. But if you're not operating out of love, then you will not be able to maximize your gift, right? You will not be able to reap all of the benefits of your gift. So one of the things, there's lots of things that come with your gift, but some of the ones that are most important is, number one, it brings you a level of influence within your lane, right? So if my gift is leadership and I'm operating with love in my gift of leadership, then my ability to impact and influence will be far greater than if I was not operating in love, right? So just because you have the gift does not mean that you're automatically going to be awesome in leadership or giving or teaching or whatever your gift may be, okay? Because one of the key components of being able to be fully functional, right? So be able to really maximize your gift is being able to operate in love. So there will be an attachment that you can read through that has some scriptures that can give you a little bit of reference in terms of operating in love, because I think a lot of times we don't really fully understand what that means, right? And so it's just about being able to understand, what does love look like? And also, really, I want you all to understand that even as you read through some of the scriptures and some of the information that I send attached to this, know that you're not going to get it perfect, right? The key is that you have to understand that your heart is in the right place and that you're growing and attempting to do things in love. You do not have to get it perfect, right? I'm going to give you, I don't know, 15, 20 scriptures that all talk about operating out of love. And I do not want you to get overwhelmed, like, oh my God, I'm not doing this, I'll never operate in my gift. No, it's just about, number one, I'm now aware, okay, of what love really is supposed to be like from a God perspective. And now I'm pressing toward the mark, right? So it is a goal. I don't want you to get overwhelmed with, I'm never going to be able to do it, okay? All right, so that's the second one. You must operate in love. And so I would encourage you to begin to look at the document that's attached, read over some of those scriptures, and put those things down in your spirit so you can begin to operate out of them even unconsciously, okay? All right, so then the third thing that's important when we start talking about really understanding and operating in your gift is that gifts have to be cultivated, right? So when I say cultivated, they have to be worked, okay? So for example, it's kind of like this idea that just because you have a talent or skill, that talent or skill is not enough without hard work, right? So for example, if we have someone who's really talented in some kind of athletic ability, they are maybe the Michael Jordans of the world, right? And they have a natural ability for basketball that a lot of people don't other have. That's what a gift is, right? You have a natural ability that even if you never practiced, you would be better than most of the people around you, okay? But the challenge with that is sometimes we get comfortable and we're like, oh, well, I'm better than most people in this particular area. I have the gift of leadership, or I have the gift of giving, or I have the gift of whatever your gift happens to be. And then we kind of get complacent and we don't do any work. But if you just have the talent of basketball, right, and you happen to be cold in that, you are going to beat at least 50% of the people in the NBA just because you happen to be better than them. But the other 50% who are out here practicing and shooting free throws and eating right and exercising and doing all the stuff that you have to do to be an excellent basketball player, that's called cultivating your gift, right? I already know I'm good. I already know I have a leg up compared to some people. But if you don't do anything with that gift for it to grow, you also won't be able to fully operate in your gift, okay? And I'm going to give you some examples when I tell you kind of pieces of my own story. But I think that, again, the most important piece that I want you to understand is that just because you have the gift does not mean you don't have to cultivate it, all right? So the first one was that there are 3 different categories, right? So not super important, but want you to know that. The second one was just about being able to, excuse me, operate in love, right, in order to be able to maximize your gift. The third one is really about cultivating, right, being able to cultivate your gift. All right, so then the fourth one is about evaluation, right? So I am a big proponent of evaluation and examination, because unless you are monitoring you don't even realize the tendencies, the cycles, the behaviors, the attitudes, the whatever that you have, okay? So this fourth one is about being able to examine right? So whatever your gift may be, okay, just taking a minute to evaluate is going to help you understand and have greater wisdom connected to your gift, right? So in the last video, we talked about each of the gifts, and we talked about kind of the positives and negatives of each of those gifts. And sometimes we have gifts that, I'll use myself as an example, okay? So I have two gifts, right? So first of all, we all have more than one gift. Let me just also throw that in, right? There are 7 spiritual gifts, and each of us has all 7, okay? However, our predominant gift, the one that is the strongest one, is the one that we operate out of the most. But it does not mean that we don't ever operate out of the other ones. It just means that we operate out of those less, right? Those are not our primary gifts. And so you have all 7 gifts, right? Let's just be clear about that, okay? However, depending on the numbers that you received when you took the assessment, and you probably did not see those numbers unless you actually bought our gift course, right? So our gift course, not our purpose course, because what you're taking now is the purpose course, right? But our gift course helps you identify not only your primary gift, which you should know, but also your secondary gift, your third. It helps you, you'll get to see all of your numbers, right? And it helps you understand, okay, these 2 things are really close. So, man, do I have both gifts, right? So it just digs into things a little bit deeper. But when we start talking about evaluating and examining, and I use myself as an example, okay? So my 2 gifts are leadership and teaching, okay? So my results were 1 point away from each other. So the highest that I scored was leadership, and then the next highest, which is 1 point away, was teaching. Okay, so that means that I have 2 pretty strong gifts. If you have gifts that are 5, 10, 15 points away, then the other gift is just not as strong. Okay, so let me give you an example of why evaluation and examination is so important. So most people who know me would consider me to be a leader, okay? Just because I may beat to the, what is that, beat to my own drum? No, I may dance to the beat of my own drum. That's how it's supposed to be said. So part of it is that. Part of it is my personality. Part of it is some of the skills that I have. But most people would recognize me as a leader, okay? And I would recognize me as a leader, even pre-taking the assessment and designing the assessment. Here's the caveat, though, right? Here's why examination is so important, right? So while I am a leader in a lot of ways, one of the things that I've learned when I've actually been in leadership positions, right, there are some skills that I don't necessarily have, right, which can seem kind of like an oxymoron. How can I have this gift of leadership, right, and people recognize me as a leader, and I see myself as a leader, but then I haven't done so well in some of these leadership roles, which is my story, okay? I've been in more than one leadership role. I was the president of an organization in college, and I had people walk away, right? People on my staff, or not really staff because we run a business, right? But I had people who were on my team who were like, I can't work with her. And one of them was a friend. And I was like, oh my God, what is happening, right? So that's kind of one of my first experiences of recognizing that my leadership skills needed work. So then I've also been the head of organizations, right? And I've had people either walk away or, you know, we butt heads or whatever. And so here's other examples from my past that show me, well, wait a minute, this seems kind of contradictory. How can you have this gift of leadership, but you also have these negative experiences as a leader? Well, that's where cultivation comes in. That's where examination comes in. Because the truth is, I'm going to be a leader and I don't know if I want to say a better leader, but I'm going to have some natural leadership skills that half the population doesn't have, right? Period. If I never work on anything related to leadership, I'm still going to be a better leader than 50% of the people on the planet, okay? But in order for me to reach my potential, right, in order for me to be the best version of myself, in order for me to fulfill purpose, my goal is that other 50%. Right? Those other 50% of people that I'm not actually a better leader at, despite the fact that I have this gift, right? So when I examine, my leadership experiences, my leadership abilities, it helps me understand, okay, here's where you're doing really well at, and here's some areas that you really need to tweak and focus on and start to begin to improve, right? So it's not enough to just know your gift, right? You also have to begin to cultivate it and also evaluate how you function within that gift so you know your strengths and your weaknesses, okay? So the other thing that I think is important is that you understand that your gift is not your profession, right? Your gift is not your career, right? So they are connected. There's no question about that, because your gift is your nature. It is who you are. It is how you're designed. It is how you operate. So of course that's going to be closely connected to the career of your choice, okay? But your gift is not your career, right? So for example, I use my own skills again, my own gifts again, leadership and teaching. So I can be a leader in my own home. I can be a teacher with my students. I mean, with my my children, right? And perhaps that means my kids are going to learn more about money, about culture, about housework, about whatever, simply because that is my gift and that is how I'm bent, right? But maybe I'm doing something completely different. Now, I would not advise you to be doing something completely different if that is your gift, right? There needs to be some element of teaching in your profession if that is what your gift is. But I want you to be able to expand your thinking that it's not just about the job that you have, right? One of the reasons why people want to know the gift that they have is connected to the business that they want to build or the jobs that they want to have, and that's completely fine. But just so you know, your gift of giving or your gift of mercy, your gift of leadership extends far beyond your profession or your career, because it is who you are, okay? All right, so those are just a couple of points that I wanted to begin to pull out for you so that way you can start thinking and reframing and shifting kind of how you're thinking about gifts, okay? I shared some of my experiences. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes, make sure I'm saying everything that I needed to say. All right, so here's what I want you to do in terms of homework. One, if you have not taken the assessment, do that, right? So you can do that by texting the word gift to 574-319-1373. Okay, it's 574-319-1373. You're going to text the word gift. And when you do that, it'll prompt you and tell you what you need to do in order to take the assessment. And what will happen is you will answer these questions. They're pretty simple. Don't think too much into them, right? It's just kind of the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't get all deep, because then you get all these crazy scores. And once you get done, it will give you the option to download a report. The report will tell you all about your gift, right? It'll give you some positive characteristics. It'll give you some negative ones. Hopefully you've already done this, but just in case you haven't, I want to make sure that I give you the information, okay? That's the first homework, pretty simple. The second piece is connected to some of the attachments and the PDFs that I've sent, right? This is going to allow you to begin to examine, right, your experiences connected to the gift that you have, right? It's going to allow you to look at some past stuff. It's going to allow you to begin to project some future things and think about what it would look like in the future. It's going to allow you to look at the strengths that you possess and the weaknesses that you possess as it connects to the gift. Again, in that first video, we talked about the strengths and the weaknesses of every single gift, okay? So, and everyone, it looks a little bit different, right? So each gift has, let's just say, this is not exactly, right? But let's just say each of the 7 gifts has 20 positive and 20 negative, which is not accurate, okay? You are not going to have all 20 of the positive, just like you're not going to have all 20 of the negative. Some of the negative are going to stand out for you and you're like, oh, that really is a weakness for me. And some of them are not, okay? So it's the examination process that allows you to pull out which one are really your weaknesses. And I also want to kind of emphasize the fact that the goal is not to spend all of your time working on your weaknesses, okay? Because that's really going to be a waste, right? You kind of are who you are. Now, but what is important is that you have to be aware of your weaknesses, right? Just because you don't get to say, oh, well, that's a weakness. God didn't set me up like that, so, you know, I can't do nothing about that. No, that is the opposite of being responsible and owning what God has given you, right? But let me give you an example. So My gift is leadership. Okay, mentioned that 42 times already. And one of the things that I'm not necessarily good at is having fun while I'm in leadership, right? Now, most people would tell you that I'm super funny. I happen to be hilarious, okay? Anyway, neither here nor there. However, when I'm in leadership role, I'm not funny. I'm business. Let's get this work done, right? People don't tend to like that, right? People don't tend to want you to be all, do this, do this, do this. Let's check in on this. When is this due? People want you to be a little bit more relaxed. So because I know that's not an area of strength for me, then I have to be, number one, aware of that, right? And then I have to begin to put things in place that are going to minimize that, right? It's always going to be there because that's who I am. But it doesn't have to be so strong. It doesn't have to be strongly through my organization, right? So there are things that I can do. So one, when I have team meetings or staff meetings, I start with something fun and funny to kind of lighten things up and get people relaxed, even though I'd like to get down to business. But because I understand the leadership role, right, because I need to cultivate my gift, I am strategic and I start with something funny. And then I can go into business. That's one way to manage that. Another example might be, so I tell people ahead of time about my personality, right? So I say, hey, you know, my face may look this way. I really am open. I just need to get done doing, like if you catch me in the middle of an activity and you're like, hey, can I talk to you for a minute? I'm going to be a little bit irritated because I'm in work mode, right? Like now, if you come back in 10 minutes, I'm good. Like by all means, let's talk about whatever you need to talk about. However, in this moment, I'm going to struggle with that a little bit. So as a leader, if I can tell my staff, the people who I'm serving, that about me, it will make things a little bit easier. So that's another example of how examining your strengths and weaknesses become important. So in the PDF, it will walk you through your ability to do that. No matter what your gift is, it's going to help you examine some of the past behaviors that you had. You'll get to determine whether those are positive or negative for you and decide how will you cultivate your gift moving forward, right? So again, cultivating your gift has a lot to do with growing in that gift. How will I continue to be the best leader possible, right? Will I get into some kind of program? Will I read books? Will I get a mentor? Like, will I focus on the areas that I'm not as strong? It looks a lot of different ways, but you will have to make a decision about how you'll cultivate that gift. And then I want you to start, right? Like whatever you decide, I'm going to start reading books, get it done this week, right? Find a book that you can start reading about giving or about mercy or about whatever, right? So that way you can immediately begin cultivating your gift. So those are the two pieces of homework that I want to give you. I look forward to seeing you guys on the call. Make sure that you are checking your email so you know exactly the date, the time, and the number to call into in order for you to ask whatever questions that you may have connected to what we've covered thus far. Okay? So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, and I will see you soon. Peace.